Okay. Okay. Wow. Waiting room. What's up, Bryce?
What's good? I'm just setting my shit up right now.
All right, sounds good. We are technically live right now, so just FYI.
Okay. So they don't. What you're telling me is I don't have to say on live right now that I had to take a quick shower and speedrun it.
Yeah, you can even talk about your fat dump too. That's okay. I think that's allowed under content guidelines.
No, I'm saying I can't. I'm not gonna say those things.
Oh, okay.
I'm not gonna talk about my fat dump that I took right before I took a quick shower. None of that.
Ooh, that sounds good. Bryce, what are you playing for regionals tomorrow? I'm stuck.
I'm playing Hunter.
Hunter? Oh, yeah, that's right.
This is the deck I know how to play.
Oh, I don't know if I should play. What's going on, Howard?
Hey, how you doing?
Great. Howard, this is Bryce.
What's good?
Bryce is
Nice to meet you,
Howard.
Bryce.
We actually played against each other round 2 at Nats. Yeah.
Oh shit.
Yes, and he
Did indeed.
You should have honestly you won that game. Straight up, you won that game. Yeah.
Okay.
Was that you got ran into 2 blue
Right,
in a row?
like-
No. Yeah, I'll let him tell the story.
So okay. So no, I've played. I was playing Black War Gray. Still am to this day. I like the deck a lot. Now it's regular War Gray. But the last 2 turns of the game, I had a Digimon in Raising, and would have been able to swing for game for 2 straight turns in a row. And I was just so nervous because it was my first ever event, and I just forgot to raise 2 straight turns in a row. And lost game 3.
Yeah, it was tough because you had the Greymon in the back and you had the cool boy. Yeah. I'm like, if this guy has X antibody in his hand, like I'm cooked. And then you just didn't raise, and I was like, oh shit, he must not have it. I'm like, he must not have it. And then so I was playing Mervimon, so I just made Mervimon and I won. And then afterwards, he's like, oh man, I had it in my hand. I don't know why I didn't raise. I was like, oh.
Yeah, it was. Oh god, it was rough. I don't know why my camera's not working. It should be.
They hit the second tower.
No, the legend himself.
What is good? Yeah. But for tomorrow, probably just play Shine. It's a good ass deck. Don't cook yourself out of playing a deck you think is good.
I was between Shine and Blue Flare.
Blue Flare is also good.
I also haven't played really in like a month. So I just
I'm in the exact same boats. I did locals for the first time last week and like forever, and it was like, oh man, it was rough.
Yeah,
so I mean, we played starter deck format, which is not really.
That's
playing.
not really playing. Yeah.
And me and you've been testing EX5 a bunch, so we haven't played like the current format.
Yeah, so I have no idea. So I just want to play like an easy mode, like Brain Dead deck, and then if it comes down to it, I'll just X3 drop.
I think Shine is easier than Blue Flare.
I think I agree. I think except for the mirror. The mirror is weird.
Easier to play than Blue Flare?
Really? It is, yeah. Blue Flare, you have a lot of like options. Like there's.
It's like,
I see what you're saying. Yeah. No, that's fair.
I think for the Shine mirror, it's just how people used to play Lord Knight mirrors, where it's just plain chicken.
Yeah, it really is. For every Greymon deck, it really is just who goes out first, and then can you destroy them if they do.
I could be wrong. I don't practice that deck at all, but that's how I felt. I played it like 3 times. Like, yeah, that's how it feels.
Yeah.
But I'm playing Hunter. Hunter, I just try to play better than you and hopefully draw enough tamers and shit to win.
100%.
I'm still on War Gray.
So. I feel I can outplay people with that deck very much, which is why I like it. Even though it's also there are some easy mode like set situations, but I feel like it's always in my court if I can win or not.
Yeah.
So I'm all about that.
I like All Force.
Oh, nice.
Nice.
Howard, are you familiar with the legendary BB dudes?
I don't think I am. I'm gonna be honest. I'm not familiar with a lot of folks in the Digimon trading card community.
Ooh. I'm just kidding.
Yeah.
You should check out his videos. He has the best videos. 100%.
Okay, for sure. I definitely will. I'm always looking for content like that.
Very,
what?
Quote informative.
Dude, I learned so much from your Old Force video. It's actually insane.
Listen, I remember that video did way better than I expected, so that was nice.
Dude, you got 100 subs in one day off that video. That's actually insane.
Dang, off one video.
It was like 200. Yeah, it was fucking weird.
That's wild. Well deserved. That video was correct.
Listen, everyone will remember me after I eat the Mona Lisa. That's my next big move.
Like the real painting, you're gonna do a crime and then go eat the Mona Lisa.
Well, the crime will be eating the Mona Lisa. I don't think I need to top that.
For sure.
So what are all the things we're trying to focus on talking? Just the purple stuff, or we're gonna talk about like the other stuff?
Oh, we can fit it in a little ban list, I guess, since it's relevant. But for the most part, I want to talk about purple.
Yeah, I mean, for the ban list, I'm just like, hey, I want this to happen. This is probably what's gonna happen.
Yeah. So I mean, the ban list is the context, right? Because people were crying about purple because of the list, but the topic of the discussion will be purple and why it's either like always turbo broken or just like mid. Yeah, exactly.
Well, it just has the most tools, so it's like they either like pump it out the wazoo or like.
We'll save that for the big discussion. But
yeah. All right, we'll give it like 5 more minutes, see if anyone else joins, because I know Eric and Kingston said they wanted to get in, but they have not.
Are you guys getting my camera feed? Because it's just not coming through, and I don't know why. Okay, cool. I can't see myself on my own end, so that's weird.
You could have set it to don't show my own camera, which I do sometimes.
Oh, is that an option? Maybe I did. Which is that just in voice and video?
Yeah, you just right-click your own video, and it says there's like settings at the bottom.
I'm gonna feel so dumb if I did that.
One says show non-video participants, which I always.
Oh, here we go.
And show my own camera. Yep.
That's what I did. Yeah. Nice. Sweet. Thank you so much. Appreciate it.
Yeah, we've been able to see you the whole time.
Okay, cool. Good. I mean, that's what I wanted, but I just I couldn't see myself, so I was like, what am I doing?
Excellent.
Yeah.
Excellent.
I turn off show my own video when I don't need to see myself. But
nice.
Max is in the chat. What's going on, Max? That's the boy, dude.
I miss Max. I haven't heard that from that guy in forever.
Maxwell Schwartz, come back to me.
Man.
Yeah. Max, come to my bachelor party. It's gonna be lit. Ooh, let's see.
I love you, Max. Hope you're having a good time.
Max says purple players smell. He might be right.
1 second.
Big.
Checks out.
TCG Tamer, don't ban purple cards, just ban purple players. Yeah, facts.
Literally, yeah, that's actually true.
Oh, when someone comes up to me, they're like, I only play purple, I get a little sus. I'm not gonna lie.
To be fair, though, that's every game. That's like if someone says I only do X, it's like, are you okay? Like what's going on? But that's fair. That's true.
I mostly play purple is my answer, but I don't only play purple.
I don't even really play purple anymore. I feel kind of like a fraud on this server right now. You know,
it's okay. Actually, think no one here really plays purple except for Bryce. Bryce, when you top with Lilith, what were you? Were you top 32?
I was 20th place. I was
20th
right
place.
out of top 16.
All right.
But I haven't topped since because I haven't there hasn't been a purple deck that I've like loved since, and also just getting into like events is annoying.
I've played Bagra.
For sure.
I've also, in fact, opened the Bagra deck and tried it. It is really bad.
Yeah.
I think someone can. I still think there's room for someone to cook with that deck. I still think that's true.
I think the cards at the top are good. The whole engine is just terrible.
Dude, just put Garurumon. Just put Garurumon. What do you mean?
I mean, I guess, but you need to have the cards that are the engine to go under the cards.
Just put Garurumon. Come on.
Yeah, just get your save Garurumons in there.
You have to play Garurumon and the engine, and the engine sucks. I think the most someone's cooked with it is they've used like some hunter cards to like play shit for free. I've seen people like play like Shoutmon and stuff to play like their U-Tamer for free.
Hey, you know what?
It worked.
It worked.
Yeah, if it works for them, it works.
Rave button.
Ooh. All right, Eric says he's building a deck, so he's too cool for us right now. And Kingston probably got arrested by management, so we're just gonna go ahead and start it off then. All right, so I'm just gonna 3, 2, 1. I'll introduce everyone, and then we can get into it. All right. Okay, so 3, 2, 1. What is going on, everyone? Welcome to episode 4 or 5. We don't really count here at the Digisorption podcast because we are card gamers and we don't know math. Joining me today, we have regular friend of the show, the Bryce. What's going on, the Bryce?
Doing good.
Awesome. We have the legend himself, BB Dudes, the best Digimon content creator on YouTube right now. What's going on?
Hey.
And we also, first time on the show, we have Howard, who I had the pleasure of playing against round 2 at Nats last year. What's going on, man? How you doing? Welcome to the show.
Thank you for having me. I appreciate it.
Yes, of course. It's open invites. So just follow me on X/Twitter at DigitamerJoel. You'll get the notification. Shoot me a DM, and I'll get you on the show. So if you got cool takes, if you're a cool guy, if you think you know about Digimon, just hit me up, and you can be on here talk about shit. But the topic of discussion today is not the ban list, although that is the context of the show today, because people are talking about how upcoming purple is going to be very strong. And I know usually here on this channel we tend to focus only on English meta content, but because Nationals is going to be open invite, so anyone can go to Nationals as long as you make the registration. So this is going to be relevant to everyone coming in January. And it's also going to be relevant to everyone in the sense that the ban list has been announced to come up, what is it, 2 weeks from now? No, not even 10 days from now?
Oh, yeah,
next week,
they're announcing it the 17th, and it's going to be live the 17th of next month.
Okay, perfect.
So less than a week.
So EX5 is Nationals meta, and EX5 includes a lot of really strong purple strategies. Nubismon, Leviamon, and probably most importantly is the Garurumon X bottom end, which is basically Lady Devimon power crept on steroids. It's a level 4, draw 3, discard 2, and then if you X Digivolve over Garurumon or you have X body in source, then you also gain a memory. On a level 4 body, it's absolutely insane. It turbos basically every purple strategy, and a lot of purple decks are basically just slotting in this engine in order to up their consistency, their discard, their effects that they can use from trash. It's very, very powerful, and a lot of people are kind of looking at this card to get banned, but the purpose of this podcast is to talk about kind of purple card design in general, because it feels like whenever an engine like this happens or is released by Bandai for purple, the decks either become like super, super broken or it's completely irrelevant. So we're going to talk about like why that is, why purple is such a binary color. It's either on or it's off. Bryce, I know you technically have the highest purple credential here, as you got a top 32 with Lilithmon back when it was broken. So I kind of want to get like your opening thoughts on why purple is such a kind of binary color. Like why is it so on or off?
So in my opinion, purple, every color has their own like things they're generally doing well, and the 3 things purple does well are really strong whenever they're strong, if that makes sense.
Mm-hmm.
Purple likes to draw a lot of cards. It likes to gain a bunch of memory or reduce a bunch of memory, so it gain energy resource. But most importantly for purple is it uses its trash as a toolbox. It's the only color that really uses trash as a toolbox. And that means that once you get a deck that is efficient enough, you have more options than other decks at any given point of the game.
I agree. That's true. Because I think I was saying to you previously that every other color, their only resources are in their hand or on the field. Except for, you can maybe count for yellow, which can check security and use that as a resource. But security at the most is 6, 7 cards maybe if you're playing security control. But if you're playing, I don't know, Shine Greymon or even like upcoming yellow vaccine deck, you're going to have 5, 6 cards in there at the most. So that's your toolbox. Whereas purple, I mean, late game, there's 30 cards in your trash, or even mid game if you're playing like an accelerant deck like BL-Star, not BL-Star, or even, BL-Star, Beelzemon, a Garurumon decks. They can get to 10, 20 cards in trash as fast as like turn 3, turn 4, and then they just have so many more options than you. Howard, you wanna jump in real quick? You got anything to say?
Yeah, I think so. For the most part, I really agree with what everyone said so far. I think the other interesting thing, not that it's been, I think, a super prevalent strategy, but again, it's something that purple could theoretically do, like interact with, that other decks can interact with. It's the only color that has, as far as I can see, like an alternate win con. You could technically deck someone out with it, like as a legitimate strategy. I think the only deck that was kind of like a deck out deck was maybe like Beelzemon X, and even then that wasn't, I don't think it's like main focus. Everything else hasn't been like super viable, but it's something again that like exists, so the devs kind of have to balance cards around that, because if they put enough stuff in the game that would make that a viable strategy, again, like it could be a thing where it just decimates.
Yeah,
I mean, Beelzemon X was really deck out yourself and then use that to win, but I think deck out is actually the reason people are talking about bans right now. It's not going to affect EX5 for our Nats format, but the format immediately afterward is when Apocalymon comes out. Yep. And Apocalymon is a mill strategy, which is I'd say like the third deck out condition. First was like security control, which decks you out really slow because it just grinds you out.
Mm-hmm.
But then they have the new deck that came out like pretty recently, which is that Millith loop deck.
Yep.
Which is like a tier 2 version of milling you out, and then now they have a Pokemon, which is like an S tier mill out deck, which you don't want. Like,
yeah,
in this game, mill is actually the most uninteractive way to lose.
Yeah,
compared to any other way to lose, because when you're milling, you don't interact with your opponent's security, which is how a lot of decks are built to like fight. Like your security naturally beats up the board a little bit, and like gives you advantage a little bit as your opponent chips through it. Mill ignores that mechanic entirely.
Absolutely, it takes what could be a resource for the player that's getting attacked and completely negates it. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. And that's why we see decks that can actually utilize their trash as a resource coming up as counters to Apocalypmon. So we see Machine, maybe even Beelzemon, some rogue strategies, but for the most part, I've been seeing Machine talked about as a counter because
Jellymon.
That's why we got BBDs in here. The Jellymon tech.
I'm here early with Jellymon. It does things. Eventually, it'll do them well. And then, give me 8 cards. That's like what? 2 Jellymon protects?
Yeah.
Game over, Pokemon. Sorry, bud.
Okay, so while we're on the topic of a Pokemon, let's kind of like transition that into the topic of this conversation, because a Pokemon, if you guys don't know, basically you can like put level 6s in your trash underneath it to use the on play of that level 6, and it also mills 4 cards from the top. It mills cards from the top of your opponent's deck for each level 6 in its source, essentially.
I think 4 might be correct. Like we could always double check that.
Okay, so it mills X amount of cards from your opponent's deck for every level 6 underneath it. And the on-play condition is that you stuff Dark Master cards from BT15 underneath it to reduce its play cost. So essentially, I think you bring it out with 4 sources, right? It's 3 Dark Masters and then 1 other level 6.
Yeah, like so you can grab other level 6s. So those decks tech like utility on play level 6s because it activates on play effects.
Yes.
They can activate any on play effects. I think one of the ones that's really big is I don't remember the name, but it's like the dragon from like the Hina deck that prevents you from digivolving.
Yes.
So your opponent can't even digivolve against you while you're doing your thing.
There's that one, and then there's the Magdramon, also from that same EX set, which is security -1 to everything. So basically a Venusmon. The Dark Masters themselves have pretty decent on-play effects. But essentially the point, just to like cut it short, is that you get some really nasty on-play effects from your level 6s, and you also mill your opponent out a bunch. But the caveat is that you have to have these Dark Masters / other level 6s already in your trash. So how do you get those cards in your trash? Well, you do a purple engine, because purple is the color that discards the most to your trash. And the most consistent and powerful purple engine that has been released is the Garurumon X engine, which level 4, draw 3, discard 2. Not to mention all the other purple Gabumons that have been released in the past, which are all when attacking, draw 1, trash 1. So you get a really consistent, just get cards in your trash engine for a Pokemon. So kind of the question I want to pose to you guys is, when it comes to purple decks, they have a lot of these kind of degenerate boss monsters. So we can talk about a Pokemon, of course. We can talk about BL Starmon, which also requires multiple different cards in your trash in order to get super efficient options off. We can talk about Mervamon,
Lilithmon.
Mervamon, I guess not technically Anubismon. For the purpose of this conversation, we'll throw him in there.
Anubismon is with Mervamon. Like that's
Yeah.
what makes him good.
Yes. So, is it the boss monsters are too good, or is it the engines are too good? Because I feel like when it comes to purple, the boss monsters are only good when the engine is good. And that's kind of been sort of the design philosophy, whereas they have like inconsistent, mediocre engines. Because I mean, up until now, it's only been Eismon Scatter Mode, which we all know has jamming, so it actually never dies to security. But now that we have a way to guarantee the draw 3 trash 2, you don't have to die to security. You just digivolve for free. You even gain a memory with Garurumon X. Like,
Even though it's inconsistent, it's still a really good engine. I see some Pokemon builds do that instead of doing the new stuff, although I think the new stuff's still better. But I think they're still using that engine. It's just like part of purple design is I think like most purple lines are just not built strong. They're built draw efficient. So like once you get a way to like use enough, they're efficient enough for the bosses to be good. That's like when purple is nasty.
Yeah.
Oh no, go for it. Go for it.
I was thinking about this a lot. I think just purple in and of itself is something that, as time goes on, it gets stronger and stronger. And it's interesting because I was thinking about like swinging into security. Your worst case scenarios are either, and against any other color, you lose tempo because you die to a security bomb or a bigger Digimon, or you give your opponent resources, typically through a tamer. With purple, and I was thinking like mostly in context of Beelstar, if I hit a security bomb, not only have I just lost tempo, I have now set up my opponent for a resource that they can immediately use with Beelstar, and it's now going to be costing 1 less. And I think that was just something interesting because I've been teaching my friend Digimon, and they've been playing Beelsmon, which has been an interesting thing to try to walk someone through.
Yeah, teach a new player,
But they really like it. But like if it's not something that's alternate removal, like bouncing with blue, and they lose tempo, they've added like 6 cards to their trash that they can then use and then profit off of in a different way. So I think that's kind of, I don't know, that was just something interesting where it's even in security, it's different just because they have that trash as a resource. So if I check a security bomb now, not only have I lost tempo if I didn't have any form of protection, they're closer to their win con with something like Beelstar.
Yeah, I think to answer your question, Joel, in like a kind of a non-direct way, I don't think it's necessarily that the monsters are too strong, or like the boss monsters, or the engine is too strong. I think it might be just for the most part that purple is the only color that can really interact with the trash at all. So like, and no one can stop that. Like no other color can stop that or mess with that or deal with that in any way. But on top of that,
I was gonna say the ways they stop it are inefficient.
Yeah.
Right.
You have to get to level 7, which is merciful mode, which not every deck can easily just turbo to a level 7, and it's level 7 that doesn't do much other than that.
Exactly. Yeah. Like any card that's going to combat that strategy is going to do really poorly against any other strategy. So unless the meta is only dominated by purple, it's like, doing strats like that will make you play a more inefficient deck. But oh no, I've lost my train of thought. Oh no, what was I going to say? I don't know. Come back to me.
Oh, yeah.
No, you're totally okay.
You're
fine.
That was definitely a good point.
Yeah.
100%. Oh, they came back to me. I'm so sorry.
Go ahead.
The other thing I was going to say is I think because I think purple also does a really great job at using maybe some of its older cards. Obviously, all decks do this to an extent, but I think with purple, the thing is like, I think somebody kind of mentioned it before, but it's like you could have a boss monster that's really trash, or it's really bad for a long time, and then they put out something new, and all of a sudden that card's amazing. Or there's a new boss monster that like on its own is okay, and then but some of the old stuff maybe makes it pretty good, and it kind of has that interaction that we haven't really seen, I think, a whole lot with other decks, maybe with the exception of like, I know for like Black War, people were playing 1 or 2 of the old Black War cards. Like that
promo,
was cool.
Promo Black War came out,
but we don't see that, I think, as much with other colors as we do with purple.
I mean, I've kind of said this before. I think most other colors, they're very like, this is my archetype and I build around my archetype. Purple is just, I play the best cards I could play in my color and put them all in a deck. With like the exception to just a couple strategies, which is like, Beelzemon is like the one of the only exceptions that I could really think of. That's just, oh, I play my line. This is my archetype. All my archetype cards fit in here. All the other purple decks that are good are just, I'm gonna slam all of the best purple cards into a deck and see if it works.
That's
true. Purple does very much feel. It feels more like it's a color-based color and not an archetype-based color, like kind of everything else does seem to be. That's a really good point.
Yeah.
It's like a Frankenstein of just the best engines the color has.
Yeah. Absolutely. I was kind of thinking of something like that, but I couldn't exactly word it as eloquently as you did. So I appreciate you saying that, because in my head I was thinking back to like something like Yu-Gi-Oh, for example. There were archetypes that had you mill stuff, and other archetypes couldn't really deal with that.
Light Sworn.
Yeah, or Dark Ruler, stuff like that. But it's like, but those were archetypes. Whereas in this game, the decks that do that is like just any purple card. Is it a good purple card? Cool, you can throw it into your purple deck that does purple things.
Yeah.
I mean, kind of going off that, like a lot of like some of the best Yu-Gi-Oh decks are not like an archetype. They're like 4 archetypes just mashed into the same deck.
Engines.
I use the tour guide engine. I use the
plant engine.
The plant engine, the Tengu engine, and you just jam all those in good stuff.
The good old days.
Color.
Normal Alistair.
You just jam all of these cards into the color because they're individually good but also support each other.
Yeah. I think, okay, so on the topic of archetypes, I think Purple has had really 3 archetype decks I can name off the top of my head. So there was Titamon from BT 6 or 7, which did nothing. I mean, the most we got out of that was the Ginkaku package, which is still tech to this day. And then we had Masamon, which is it's a dual color archetype, and it's it's its own deck, right?
It's its own deck. It feels very yellow flavored, but it has the purple toolbox element.
Yes. And then there was Beelzemon. And out of those 3, Beelzemon is it is by far the best out of those 3. And it was probably by far one of the best decks pretty much ever in this game at full power. Why was that? I think, well, number one, was it the milling or was it the toolbox from trash? I think it was both.
It's always a combination of both, because you need there's times where I have all these Eismons, but I don't have like a good payoff for them. I think that's how it was in BT 11 when like Black War Grey was the best deck. Like we got Mervamon, which is a crazy card, but purple wasn't like the best strategy. It had a good top end, it had a good engine, but they didn't like have something that's super cohesive between them, except for they got the trash. So it was like a tier 2 deck, but it was just, you're just mishmashing your 2 good things together. It's not really cohesive. Like, oh, Greymon, all the Agumon searched each other, all of the Tamers buffed each other, all of the Digimon like Digivolve over each other. Purple just slammed a bunch of good cards in the deck and called it a day. Beelzemon, on the other hand, it's like, oh, I'm milling my deck, but I'm also benefiting from milling my deck off of every single card of my deck. Every card is trying to achieve the same objective.
Yeah.
So actually, like, that's why it worked as an archetype. When you don't have an archetype in purple, but it's broken, is mostly because the combination of them amounts to way more than like anything else could compete.
Yes.
I think with Beelzemon, something else interesting, and I'm sorry to keep like bringing it back to Yu-Gi-Oh. I don't know why I keep doing this.
No, it's a great example. Yeah.
A lot of us are old Yu-Gi-Oh players. It makes sense.
Yeah, but at least for me, when I was playing against Beelzemon, it's like their turns would last for like ever.
Yes,
so
it's
long.
still my turn. That's the meme, dude.
Yeah, and so it would be like, so even for me, it's like I'd almost get like fatigue. I'd be like, there's so much text on these cards. They do so much. There's like 1,000 effects they have to resolve, and then it's my turn, and it's like, okay, I'm like hyper paying attention to what they're doing to make sure that I'm like understanding the board state, and then between that and trying to think of my next move based on the effects that they get from all of the things that resolve, it's like, okay, now I'm like tired after their turn mentally.
Yeah.
And so you kind of have to take a step back. And like I was mentioning, it's similar to Yu-Gi-Oh, it's like a lot of decks, especially in modern Yu-Gi-Oh, it's like you resolve like 15,000 things. You maybe have 1 or 2 interruptions. And then like you're okay. In Digimon, we don't even have interruptions like that. With the ace cards, we're starting to kind of get something like that. But so I think that was definitely one of the factors that made that deck so strong. Other than the fact that the effects of the deck were just good, they were powerful. Every time you trash something, it did something. That is good. But then the fact that that also then took physical time, kind of like wore out players.
I mean, yeah, I think that is kind of the core of the issue is that purple at its strongest is a Yu-Gi-Oh deck essentially.
Yes.
Memory gives you more turn time. Having a toolbox buys you more turn time. And you're doing a lot of steps of stuff.
You can do special summon just infinitely. Yeah, that's so true.
As someone who played MDF Lilith Loop, yes, that is 100. There are certain times when purple is its most powerful where it just does a lot in one turn. Because it needs the way it gains advantage. It doesn't gain advantage quickly. It gains it through a series of all of their cards working together.
Yeah, I think
where
a
deck like Grandis, which is or like Metal Garurumon, they kill you really fast. Purple doesn't have extra checks on anything except for I think Beelzemon got some extra checks, but most of their stuff doesn't get extra damage. So you have to individually do. Okay, how do I get 6 different attacks into my opponent's security? And it's not from like one stack, it's from like 6 different Digimon that I have to find a way to bring out.
Yes. I think I will say that I think the common denominator here is that purple is one of the only colors that has the it's still my turn factor, which makes it very frustrating when it's good to play against. Again, with Prime, MDF, Lily Loop, like their turn lasted forever. They would gain, I think they got like 20 memory to spend if they really were popping off. And it was the same thing with Beelzemon. Sometimes it felt like they had like 15 memory to spend before they could ever pass it over to your turn, just from all the effects that gain the memory for free. And I think no other color really has access to this type of memory game and play extension. That's what makes it very frustrating to play against when it's good. And that's why I think purple players like to complain like, oh, my deck has been bad for so long, like why is everyone all of a sudden calling for bans? I'm like, well, because your decks are obnoxious when they're good, and that's one of the reasons why. Is it a design flaw, or is this something that can be fixed moving forward? Like, I think Bandai does a good job. Like, they banned MDF, they got rid of the Impmon that mills 3 more, so not as much play extension. Like, is there another card in purple in general that can maybe cut this down? Jack Raid maybe? I don't know. What do you guys think?
I mean, Jack Raid's not why it's good now. Like, Jack Raid's not being played in the newest purple decks.
That's true. That's also true. I mean,
it's like I'm playing Anubis, which is like you would think, oh, this is the deck that like turbos its trash, then revives a bunch of stuff. You'd play Jack Raid. You don't need Jack Raid in that deck, which has traditionally been one of the best play extensions of purple. It's just by purple design, they want to have a toolbox color that gains a bunch of memory and draws a bunch of cards. That's what the color does best.
I mean, the Inheritables and the Anubismon stack all gain a memory. Like, your Anubismon stack by itself gains like 2-3 memory just from the Inheritables.
Yeah, like memory, like the fact that it's tied to combination of memory gain and toolboxing is why your turns are always long when it's good.
Yeah. It's
like those things are both play extending things. Purple is good when it can extend plays over and over and over again.
I think the tricky thing maybe in developing tools to deal with purple on Bandai's side is I think we have a situation where basically a lot of the other colors, for them to be generating memory to keep playing, they've been kind of locked into like the BT9 format of like X Antibody, where you just build up a stack, you have your cool boy, and you gain your memory, and you digivolve for 0 or for 1, for really low cost, and you can reduce that and like yada yada, all this stuff. But to build those decks, they have to be hyper consistent, or else you won't see those pieces to gain that memory. Whereas with purple, I think you can build consistency into the deck with a bunch of tools instead of kind of the other way around. And so if you don't see exactly what you need in like Black War, or when you were playing Grandis or in Melga, it's like you just kind of have to wait forever. Mm-hmm. But with purple, if you don't see the stuff you need, you might draw into one card that nets you like 4 cards, and it's like, oh, all of a sudden I found the things that I need. And then you can just kind of ramp from there. And it's not as specific, I think. I don't know if that made sense.
No, I agree. Like, I think key cards to name for that kind of effect is Calling from Darkness #1. We already saw that limited to 1. And then also in Beelzebub, we had 4 Rivals Barrages, where like even if they milled an important card, they could just add it back to their hand for free.
Yeah.
You know, like no other deck has access to that kind of toolbox. It's basically like it's removal. It's basically like a quote unquote mem boost in that it searches, but it's free, and you have like a 20 card pile that you can search from. It's ridiculous.
I think Eismon is another huge one as well, because it's one of those things where I think a scatter mode, not regular Eismon, the one that searches, not the one that gets big.
Right.
Yeah, the one that draws 3 just starts 2.
Yeah. On the board, that's just free swings for eternity. Like if it doesn't get trashed and they can't search off it, well, that sucks. But then it's still on the board to be a threat next turn. So even if you have a deck where you can deal with bodies and you have deletion in some way, well, it's like even if you deal with that card, you've now done a favor to your opponent. And that's like one of those cards where you can put it basically in any purple deck, and it'll just net you cards or net you destroying your opponent's security. You can chip away at them, or they can give you advantage, or both happen. And I'm not advocating for like a ban for that card, but I think it's another example of like, you know, of a card that's just generally good. You can kind of slot it into most purple decks if it's not super archetype focused, which most of them aren't.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I'd say it's one of the things that's kind of difficult about balancing purple in general is if you like cut its legs, okay, I don't have my engines anymore, then there's no good purple deck because there's no archetype to fall back on. They're all just, I need my good cards to be good or my entire color sucks. And like as a game, you want it's like I don't think we've ever really been in this spot, maybe a couple times, but you want all of your colors to be like at least a little playable, a little good. And you also want like a different like gambit of skill levels of different decks. Like you want a deck someone who's brand new to the game could pick up and learn and play, but you also want something that's like if someone really likes advanced technical play, there also should be a deck for that. And I'd say like for the most part, Digimon doesn't have that many decks or strategies that reward someone who's like really, really technical. There's a couple exceptions, and a lot of those are purple.
Mm-hmm. I mean, purple is. No, go ahead.
Yeah, I just want to let add what's up, everyone.
Yo, Omni Hero, yo.
Okay, let's go.
Recent top 8 regionals.
Okay.
Ooh. Yeah, I'll dab you up.
Nice. I just want to add, purple itself, like, just getting to Eismon is pretty much just Devimera, Gabumon, and then like Eismon. You're drawing like 6 cards already, and you're trashing like
exactly.
4. You're trashing like 4.
Yeah.
And you don't even need. That's all you need for a perfect hand to like start getting your engine going.
Yes, 2 cards. Yeah.
Yeah.
That's true, but with the Eismon engine specifically, you have to start off your second stack where other decks start off their first stack.
Yeah, and also
you have to sacrifice your first.
Yeah,
stack
you're always stacking. Yeah, that's true. You're always stacking for. They never want to go to 6. They never want to go to level 6, like half the time.
Yeah, that's true. Their early game caps out at level 4. Yeah.
Yeah, it's max 5 if they don't have anything.
Yeah.
That's true.
I agree. That gives them a faster curve.
Same with like your like cards like Analog Youth that like just benefit.
Oh, we'll get there. We'll get to Analog Youth.
Yeah.
We'll get to Analog Youth.
That 2 drop. I'm just saying. That's kind of.
Cool boy conundrum. Yeah.
An Analog Youth, you mean? Wait, or did you mean Cool Boy?
No, Analog Youth.
No. Okay, so where do I want to go with this?
You want to go back to Pokemon?
We don't have to move on to it. Yeah.
Okay, so I want to start here. So on the topic of so we're talking about scatter mode, but I really want to kind of elevate that to talking about Garurumon X, which is pretty much just scatter mode on crack. It's the same effect, except you want it to have jamming. In fact, it gets jamming from the Gabumon X, which basically return 2 cards from your trash to the bottom of your deck, which removes actually the lose by deck out issue that some purple decks do have if you don't manage your resources correctly. So
it also has that inheritable if you go to level 5 as well, if you're a deck that does that.
Yes, not common with the Garurumon engine decks unless you're playing Tribal Garurumon, which surprisingly not that unfair. I think Tribal Garurumon is fine. But the decks that just abuse the level 2 through 4 Garurumon engine just for the straight up draw 3, discard 2, and the inheritables when attacking, draw 1, trash 1, draw 1, trash 1, and then the Sunamon, when you trash a card from your hand, you draw 1 card. You get through so much of your deck just in one Digivolve and one attack. I think you combine this engine and it's just too much. Like, I don't know. Like,
I think doing the math on it, that engine alone gets you like 9 cards through your deck.
Yeah.
On one stack, because it's you Digivolve from level 2 to 3, 3 to 4, 4 to 4. Draw 3. From your.
Well, also if you had the Garurumon level 4 when you raised up, then it's another draw 2, trash 1. So that's an additional 3 card.
More because I counted that Digivolve.
Okay. No, it's a Digivolve, and then the effect itself is draw 1, trash 1.
Yeah, but I counted that Digivolve already for the draws.
Okay.
6 or 7, so we'll say 7 maximum right now. 7 plus when you attack, you have 2 inheritables that draw 1, trash 1. That puts you to 9, and then your inheritable gets you to draw 1 if you're like less than 6 cards.
Yeah.
So you drew 10 cards in a single.
Hold on. And like you do the BT6 Sunamon, which is just draw 1 whenever you discard a card. So no need for less than 6 cards. Whenever you discard a card, you just draw 1 for free.
Oh, okay. So yeah, 10.
That's like 1/4 of your deck already, bro.
Yeah, it actually is legitimately.
Yeah, that's literally 1/4 of your deck, and you have what? How many cards in trash that like benefits you? Holy shit!
Like 5, I think. 4 or 5.
Yeah, 4 or 5. Yeah.
Well, that's a lot.
Yeah, it really is. For no, you don't even have to die to security. You don't have to Calling from Darkness your own stack. You don't have to Deathclaw your own stack. Like,
and if you went through the ideal stack, that costs you 1 memory.
It costs you 1 memory. Yeah, net 1 memory.
If you do it ideally.
Yep.
Yeah.
What's
that's
really
not what
bizarre.
that's like turn 2.
Yeah, turn 2. You can do it in turn 2. Yep.
If you have all the pieces, yeah, you just do that turn 2. And then your deck's basically ready to go of whatever your strategy you're doing.
Unless you're bad and you don't know how to draw cards, you just draw all the wrong cards. Skill issue, I guess. I don't know.
Yeah,
it's not the only broken purple thing in that set, though. So like that's why.
Game.
I don't know. Okay, well, Leviamon.
Are we talking about EX5? What do you?
Anubismon doesn't play it. Anubismon can't play it.
Anubismon can't play it, but I mean, like, if we're talking strictly Garurumon X decks, we're talking about Beostarmon, we're talking about Belfutmon, we're talking about Leviamon. Leviamon can also be played in Anubismon.
Yep.
Which kind of gets us. Okay, so let's talk about engines real quick, because we obviously have the scatter mode engine, which is the tried and true kind of purple engine up until this point. We have the up and coming Garurumon engine, which from EX5, which is what has everyone kind of talking about, oh, this needs a ban, it's too good. And then we have the Anubismon engine, which is actually just inheritables that gain you memory whenever you trash a card or when you play a card with an effect. So there's kind of 3 purple engines going on right now. I think Garurumon is probably the most splashable one, followed by scatter mode. And then we have Anubismon kind of is the only one using the
it uses like the traditional level 5s that you would use.
So these engines aren't archetype restricted, which is I think is only a purple thing, because like we talked about before, like, okay, so if you want to use Greymon X to reduce your level 5 by 2 memory, you have to digivolve into a Greymon, and then Greymon X only digivolves for 0 over a Greymon, so you're kind of locked into Greymon just to play that, like, or back in last year's Nats, 4 copies of that super powerful card. You got locked in the Greymon.
Yeah. Because it's weird, and I think my tinfoil hat theory is the reason a lot of that stuff is generic is because they hate making villain cards in this game. It's like BT15, and we finally got the second Puppetmon in the game, right? But purple's like an evil color.
Oh, okay.
I think my theory is why we have like no real archetypes in that color specifically, and it just ends up being generic stuff, is because it's like, well, we don't want to make something for Dan Devi again. The villain deck. Oh my god.
Yeah, they don't want to be evil. Oof.
Is purple an evil color? Because I feel like low key, Black is also an evil color
Yeah,
because
Blackboard Greymon's
I
literally
love
killing
that.
kids. He's
Black
killing
is-
kids.
yeah, you know what I'm
There's a
saying.
Digimon lore, I think it's black and purple, and all the other colors are like the heroes, whatever.
But like, I don't know because that whole like hero like I don't think that has no merit. I think there's definitely is something to that. But I mean like there's even like I think one of the at least from like the anime, one of the most popular Black Digimon, like Andromon, is like very much a good guy, right?
Yeah.
But then you have Machine Dramon, who's like okay, very much a villain. So I think purple and black tend to be the colors that get like the villains like splashed into them,
Yeah.
whereas a
saying-
lot of the other colors don't.
Yo,
It's
Alphamon's
saying
a
more
black,
so that you don't want to
black
make a
deck.
whole deck in this color because they're villains. Is the idea, but I don't know. They do make those decks. They just always suck. The best things about purple is the engines.
That's fair.
It's just the things the good things in purple are just like we said before, drawing and trashing a bunch of cards, which is what the Gurumon engine right now is doing so well in EX5. It's one of the most efficient ways we draw and discard cards in the game. It's doing stuff at level 5 for cheaper than most level 4s.
All the way around.
It wasn't Sherbimon purple. It's evil.
Oh,
Facts.
the lore, the lore.
Beelzemon is a bad guy.
Evil
purple,
lore.
go
Yo,
back.
yeah, actually, he's an anti-hero. Actually, come on.
He is an anti-hero.
Oh,
Okay.
No, but like, right? The Gurumon engine does what a lot of level 5s do, cheaper than most level 4s.
yeah.
Like, but all of the best level 5 purple cards don't like accelerate your game plan they don't like affect the board or like remove stuff or any of that. They mostly just accelerate your deck more, which is not what other colors do. Other colors are trying to do stuff at level 5. Purple is trying to skip level 5 as fast as possible because their good stuff is drawing cards early and doing a boss play with it.
That's true. Purple level 5s are all pretty mid, I think, except for Lady Devi and Blue Marimon, which is the same effect.
And the
And
Cerberus package.
arguably, I was gonna say
Cerberus
yeah,
one,
and
Cerberus.
arguably Cerberus one package as
Cerberus
well.
one,
Yeah.
yeah.
Another like small package you just throw into a purple deck.
That's true.
Yeah,
and
I
guess
thi-
what? They're all generic. Like there's no archetype.
Yeah, these cards they draw me cards and discard me cards, which is all purple wants to do.
Yeah.
For as far as the new Gurumon stuff goes, Joel, you're talking about them being kind of splashable, but unless I'm just reading the cards wrong, I don't really see that. For the EX5 stuff, it seems like you do want to just run the Gurumon line. Now, granted, there's a lot of already like amazing purple Gabumon cards and some decent purple Gurumon cards, but it seems like you are kind of locked into that
So
archetype. Am I like what? Am I reading something wrong?
So you're correct up until level 4. So you want to run basically like eight minimum Gabumons because you have the new ST Gabumon, which when start a main, if your opponent has a Digimon, you gain a memory. So you raise out, gain a memory, and then it's also inheritable when attacking, draw one, trash one. You have the old ST Gabumon, which is inheritable when attacking, draw one, trash one. That one is not once per turn. So if you can restand, you can do it again. And then you have there's a vanilla purple Gabumon, which obviously is not really playable anymore. And then there's the on deletion, draw two, trash one, which with the Garurumon strategy is actually not really that useful because you get jamming. So you're not really deleting yourself necessarily.
Right.
And then for level 4s, you have the new starter deck, Garurumon, which when Digivolving, draw one, trash one, inheritable when attacking, draw one, trash one. And then there's the new Garurumon X, which draw 3, trash 2.
Yes. Yeah.
Right. And then there's also the new Gabumon X, which I forgot to mention, which is on play or when Digivolving, you search top 4 for a Garurumon or any card with X antibody in its name. Any card with X antibody in its name, which is actually huge.
That's true. It's true.
It's actually huge because if you're a hybrid Melga player, I think Beelzemon X has a spot in your deck as a hot tech. Throwing that out there.
That's a good point. Yeah, unlike a lot of the other like X antibody draw cards, it's specifically like
The X antibody options.
Yeah.
It's any card with X antibody in its name, and then if you add a card, you trash one. and it gives you the battle protection on the level 3. So the level 3 gives you the battle protection so that your level 4s have the basically jamming. So you don't really need to go to level 5 past that, because yes, technically the Garurumon X also gives you that battle protection inheritable, but you don't need that because the level 5s don't accelerate you, right? The Where Garurumon from the starter deck is just, you can trash one to unsuspend, but it doesn't draw you cards.
So
And
it's more
then
damage if you're playing like a Garurumon deck.
yes, and then the new Where Garurumon X from EX5 is you can also, I think it's also trash one to oh no, it's trash.
It's trash 2 on Digivolve to unsuspend.
Yeah, trash 2 on
Digivolve. One
Digivolve.
other effect.
Yeah, and then you can add any card with X antibody in its name from your trash to your hand. So the top end, it's good, but it's not necessary for the engine. The engine really caps out at level 4.
The engine is the bottom end. Yeah.
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah,
No.
so
That's
once you do your
cool.
level 4 stuff, then you're free to do, okay, what level 5 and 6 or end game am I going for? Like Beelstarmon doesn't even play level 5s. They can, but they can also just skip it and just play more options and more ways to Beelstar.
Yeah, exactly.
That checks out. All right, cool. Well, I appreciate the context there, because I was looking at that and I was like, I don't know about that, but I definitely see your point now. That's true.
Mm-hmm.
And then the Apocalypse deck is the same idea as Beelstar, but instead of playing a bunch of options in Beelstar, you play a bunch of level 6s in Apocalypse.
Yeah.
True. All right, Bryce, you're gonna lead the discussion for like 5 minutes because I have to pee.
All right. You want me to save Analog Youth for you to get back? Oh, he's already gone.
Let's just
Let's
do
say
that
yes. No. Yeah. Let's save it just in case.
Okay. But yeah, so we kind of went over a lot. Purple is just the toolbox color, and it's hard to balance because if you mess up one thing, the whole color doesn't work, and that just isolates like a whole section of your player base. I don't know if it's the most popular color. I think it's probably the least popular color because it's so hard a lot of the time. But when it's good, it just feels like, oh, I can't do anything because they have infinite long turns that summon a bunch of guys. They've done so much with their turn, and I didn't get to do anything. Or they have infinite answers to everything, every threat I have. Where some other decks, they just build their stack and are much more straightforward on what they're doing.
Yeah, and I think the typical silver bullet to purple has been blue, because it takes a little bit longer for purple to set up than blue. But then once you add in the Garurumon engine and they're setting up before you can, it's like, well, all right.
Yeah. Also, normally purple has to have their stuff die, and blue prevents that. But the Garurumon engine ignores that. They don't need to die anymore. And the Anubismon engine as well. Like they just build to the level 5, which lets them draw on trash, and then go level 6 to play like 5 bodies on level.
Exactly. Yeah. So that's I think the biggest crux of the thing is just purple is good. It just takes time and setup, but then once you eliminate the need for a lot of that
setup,
then you're good to go. Which I guess that could be true of any deck, but I think especially for purple, just because it has access to the trash.
It's the most powerful purple has ever been. I think we can name like 3 times was MDF Lilithmon, which it took a long time to set up, but just compared to the format when it set up, it did so much that it didn't matter. And the only reason it wasn't the best deck was because blue was the best deck. And the other time was immediately after that, which it was like the 3rd best deck, was when it had 4 Eismon and 4 scatter mode, and they got to play stuff for free on top of doing their drawing and trashing. And then after that was Beelzemon, where it actually became the best deck. That was the first time it was the best deck, because the other times blue was kind of in the way.
Right, and I think
both the formats where purple was like at its strongest, blue was a better deck at that time. The only time that wasn't was with Beels.
And I think that's entirely because Hunters was around. Because when I was playing Ulforce, it felt like such a good matchup against specifically Beels, outside of like, oh, they hit the complete jackpot. But I felt really confident of that, but you can't play Ulforce when it just gets tucked away or Quartzmon exists like at that level. At least that's what I felt, because then I even had situations where I was running the merciful mode, and then it would have evade because the arena would carry over, and I think that was very potent. But again, because blue was not there to be as powerful, I think then we got purple like unabated for the most part.
I think a similar situation might come in EX5 as well. the best purple deck in my opinion is Anubismon, and I think Beelstarmon is also happens to be another purple deck, but its matchups are different than Anubismon's matchups.
Yeah.
And so like the purple kind of needs that deck to like gatekeep the things that beat it. But when it does, it just feels like, oh, I have to play against this deck way too much, and it's too good.
I think something else that makes purple interesting in terms of setting up like really quick, right? Like getting rid of the aspect of like time and having like set up your board is unlike other decks that need setup. So a deck that's doing really good in Ultimate Cup, or at least was for a little bit. I'm not really following those, to be quite honest. So I don't know if this is up to date. I was gonna say is Bloomlord, which takes time to set up, but all of that setup has to occur on the field. Whereas for any purple decks, the time you have to set up, that setup mostly takes place in the trash. So even if you're losing your Digimon, that's part of your strategy, that's part of your setup. And so it's hard to mess with that setup a whole lot, unless you're just like top decking things and not actually deleting them like what blue does. So I think that's why blue's been such a strong counter, because it's one of the few colors where that's like a main mechanic, where you're moving stuff back to the hand or back to the deck instead of just deleting it. But with most other colors, well, if they delete your stuff, okay, cool, now you have more resources. Whereas with any other deck that requires setup, it requires board presence, or in the case of like yellow, if you're just dropping a big guy down, you have to use a bunch of memory, which means now your opponent has a bunch of memory. But whereas with purple, you can just kind of play normal, and they either can deal with your stuff or they kind of just can't.
I think it's kind of interesting you bring up Bloomlord, because I think one of the things that green does well is it cheats out their stuff in terms of like playing stuff for free or reducing the cost. But arguably, gaining memory is just doing that but better. I have more flexibility with what I'm gaining from that, which is I think one of the reasons why the reason I think green actually is the only reason that's like good is that its floodgates are like the best. But because it doesn't have those great floodgates, compared to purple, gaining memory is way better than reducing cost, because I'm getting more options to do what I want to do with it.
True.
Yeah, and then if you're
I'm only doing this one thing exactly.
Yeah, if your board's broken down in green, well, you're kind of fucked. But if your board's broken down in purple, it's like, okay, now I have a bunch of stuff in my trash to then do more things with. Yeah.
Yeah. All right.
I'm
back. I'm back.
We're back.
You're back.
We were talking about essentially how when you lose stuff with purple, it's not as bad as losing stuff with other decks, because you're building a resource. You can recur
the resource. Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Cool.
And then he brought up Bloom, and I was like, actually, I think that's a good point, because one of the things
it is a good point. Well, yeah, it's a very good analogy.
Oh, one of Green's main factors is to reduce stuff.
Yes.
Yeah.
And
okay,
gaining is objectively better than reducing stuff, which is why you have to reduce by a lot.
Yes.
Let's hop into sort of the next hot topic conversation, because I think in terms of engine versus boss monster, I don't think we're not going to get anywhere, because I think we kind of come to the conclusion that it's kind of a combination of both. So let's talk about out of engine enablers for purple decks, which I think the main culprit that's being talked about right now is one Analog Youth.
That little white boy.
Little white boy, yeah.
Analog Youth is like almost only a purple card, even though it's a white card.
Yeah, for real.
It never goes to any other deck, and if it does, it's like a tech card for those people. It's not like I should permanently have it, you know?
I think the reason for that is that, number one, search top 3, and then you send cards to trash. It's not technically milling, so Beelzemon effects don't trigger, but you do still get cards in your trash. And also the on deletion, gain of memory, and hatchet card is really only like you can force it to proc with purple decks, because purple decks are the decks that want the on deletion effects. I think maybe the only other deck that really has on deletions that they want to use is red hybrid, I guess, right now.
Red
Yeah.
Hybrid, and then sometimes I think
Leomon.
Oh, Leomon.
Red
But the
BB
Leomon?
Leomon has to be level 5 or higher, so it
I
has
love
to be
that
like a
deck.
level 5 that wants to die, which is a big commit unless you're a purple deck that if your thing
Whoa,
dies, you get a bunch of
whoa,
advantage.
whoa! Put some respect on EX5 Leomon's name, all right?
Bro, thank you.
Indomitable,
Yes.
indomitable. Okay.
I heard that deck's pretty good. But yeah,
I'm so
Analog Youth-
excited.
Yes.
Analog Youth for a while it looked like it's always been a good card. Like as soon as this is a great card, it kind of got overshadowed by just how good Cool Boy was, because Cool Boy in the decks it's good with was so much better. But when Cool Boy is not like in every single deck, and now a purple deck needs that resource, it shines way more because it's only really ever played competitively in purple decks.
True.
No,
go
also,
ahead.
purple has like weak searchers. They don't really search; they just draw. Which is obviously drawing is kind of better than searching if you draw more cards than you search. But only like sort of. It just depends on how much you can dig.
Yeah.
And that card is a searcher for purple that also fulfills their like win condition, which is setting up the trash enough to win the game.
Yes. I think the biggest kind of like tell that Analog Youth is just like a broken purple card is that back when Cherubimon Hybrid was like a actually good deck, they were still running 3 Analog Youth, even though it wasn't a purple tamer you could digivolve your hybrids over. That's just how much advantage that card brings to that color, because you need the search, and you need to gain the memory when your cards delete, and and it also gives you the hatch. So we all know how broken BT1 Mimi is with the hatch on your turn, so you can make another second raising, just out tempo the opponent. The card does almost everything that you need for a purple deck. Even Lilithmon, also.
Yeah. Also, it fills your trash while searching for pieces.
Yeah.
I think weirdly I guess not weirdly because we all know it's a busted effect with Mimi, but I think interestingly, I think arguably the strongest thing that it does is giving you that Digi-Egg, because the one thing that can really potentially kill your tempo with purple is if you don't have cards to trigger their unleashing effects.
Yeah.
So if for whatever reason you have your Eismon in the field, it gets deleted, and you don't really get anything good off that. It's like, okay, well now I have another chance. I guess not specifically with Eismon, right? But you have another chance to get just Digivolve on top of that, and then get that card deleted, and then now you can flip an egg, and you have a whole new stack you can make. I think specifically also it doesn't necessarily work with other decks that you think it might, like yellow, because specifically the card has to have Digivolution sources.
Yeah.
And for throwing down a level 5 like Magna Angemon, it's like, well, he doesn't have sources, so you can't actually gain the benefits of Analog Youth.
That's a really good point.
It also, I think Analog Youth's only ever a problem when you could use every part of its effect. Like when it's just milling and searching, it's not like super great. Like you didn't see Beelzemon play it. You didn't see not Pokemon. Anubismon doesn't really play it. Beelstar's not really playing it. Apocalymon is playing it because
Pokemon plays, yeah.
It needs its maximum amount of searching, and also like it punishes your opponent. It has an all turns effect to gain memory, so it punishes your opponent for removing your stacks on top of you searching. So if you're able to get those stacks and like, oh, I get to not only benefit on my turns, but if I need to, I can make my opponent's turn harder. It just makes the card that much better.
So Tommy to 4 angle is what I'm hearing.
Yo, I mean, I wouldn't be mad personally. Right now, I think Tommy to 4, I think it's fine.
I do not like that card.
I hated that deck.
Actually, brings us to a point we brought up earlier where you were gone for. I was saying that there's only 3 times, in my opinion, that purple's been like really dominant, and 2 of the times it wasn't the best deck because it was being gatekept by blue.
Yes, bounce really fucks up what purple wants to do, which is on deletion.
Bounce and stun.
Yeah, that's true. It's stun. You can't even attack into security to hope your thing dies. Yeah, that's
the only time where purple was like the best deck was when Beelzemon was the best deck, and part of the reason was that any blue deck that wanted to play the game, one, Beelzemon could sometimes just out tempo, but also there was another deck that just gate kept the blue decks out of the game.
Yeah,
which was in the Hunters.
Greymon. Oh, Hunters. Oh, true.
Because Hunters was really good against blue, any of like blue focused tamer deck because that's all
Just
the
tuck it
blue
under
decks right now.
tamers.
They just I just get rid of your threats by putting it under tamers, and now you don't have your threat anymore.
That's
Because
true.
I mean,
that deck
arguably-
existed, it let Beelzemon flourish more than it would have otherwise, even though it was already really broken.
Yeah, arguably, Joel, to your
But that was
point
like
as
on
well.
top of that.
Greymon, to your point as well, with Black War, it effectively does the same thing because you can delete the Digimon and the Tamers. I just with Greymon's, with Black War's ability, and then also if you have him and then the Hades Force, it's like okay, now their whole board is destroyed.
Yep. Very annoying. That's why we saw Melga completely fall off a cliff with no bans or restrictions once
Yeah, it was
Black War was
so
full
bad
power.
versus exactly the Greymon deck.
Yep.
Yeah. Which is unfortunate because it's like you'd think Bandai would want them to be of like relatively equal power, just being the main two characters and all. But yeah, but Greymon is just buffed out.
I mean, I was happy. I hated that deck. Blue
Yeah.
Metal's my least favorite deck in the game.
Don't get me wrong, I agree, but
That was my least favorite deck to play against in the entire game. It felt like I didn't get to play a game when they won.
Yeah.
I don't know about that, but I also I despise it as well. My
yeah.
best friend played it though, or played it when it was good, so I have a little bit of love for it because I appreciate him. But
All right, let's bring it back. So, Analog Youth, right? Okay, so is it broken because the card itself is broken, or is it broken because the purple mechanics can just abuse the card to its fullest potential? I think we're more on the latter.
Purple's the only color that could use all three effects effectively, except for like some red deck, like some red hybrid decks.
Yes, I think someone in the chat mentioned Biomon. Shout out to Bird Deck. Also, lots of undulations.
Avian,
Yeah.
It could in fact use Analog Youth.
Obani in the chat bringing up the Birdmon deck. Okay,
I heard it gets
fair
good
enough.
support in BT15. It's still lost to a Pokemon, not a Pokemon, Anubismon.
Fair enough. All right, we gotta cover. We gotta butter our bread here on the channel.
There are other decks that Analog Youth helps. Like it also helped back in the day. What was that deck? The ancient Garurumon deck.
Oh,
yeah.
BT3,
Combos, it would like die and then still keep it your turn.
Ancient
Yes.
Gabubon, baby.
Yeah, Ancient Gabubon. Oosh.
Wow.
Like it was like a
Throwback.
okay version of that deck, but like it's only really played in decks where you can use every effect. Like that's when it's best. If it's played in a deck without using every effect, it's just okay.
Mhm.
It's when all parts of the card work, the card feels really strong.
Yes. So do we think, okay, in the context of its banless season, is this card worthy of a hit?
Hell no,
I don't
dude.
think Analog Use.
I
No.
disagree.
It's
I
the other
disagree.
pieces that makes the.
Yeah, I think this card is fine at 4. Like,
Yeah, I think to the point that we were making before, it's like it's really good when you can do everything, but you can't always do everything. Whereas with something like Cool Boy, it's like when you put Cool Boy in your deck, it's because in that deck he just does everything, and like all of the decks are built around that.
Yeah.
Any X antibody deck, if you have a Cool Boy there, those X antibody decks are going to do the same thing. Cool Boy is just going to work in that deck. Whereas like you kind of have to you have to build a deck and then think, okay, can Analog Youth even work in this deck? Or like, you have to build a deck around him. Whereas with Cool Boy, you can just throw him in if it's X antibody.
Yeah.
It's like okay.
yes. Okay, so on a similar vein, I'm gonna pose a question to you guys, sort of, so we can wrap it up. Okay, so we're kind of talking about Pokemon and how it's broken because you can mill your opponent, and then also you can set it up with Analog Youth and with Garurumon X. Are Analog Youth and Garurumon X the problem, or is Pokemon the problem? Where is the design flaw here? Why is this deck broken?
Garurumon X is pretty strong. It made other decks broken. That could very easily be the problem since it makes decks so much faster. That said, a Pokemon is like you said earlier, it's a mill deck. It interacts. It's the least interactive way to win a game in Digimon, and that's just like feels unfair. On top of the fact that it can gain effects that make it basically immune to everything. So it's like maximum not interactions.
Mm-hmm.
I would say a Pokemon, but I understand why people would say Garurumon. Like I go both ways, but I would say a Pokemon because of it just maximum uninteractivity in terms of a win condition.
So
Yeah,
I played.
No, go
Oh,
for
God.
it. Sorry.
Okay, so
No. I've been talking a lot. You're good.
So I played the Pokemon deck against the Pokemon deck with War Greymon so far. Best to 10 or fastest to 10.
Oh,
I've only won
wow.
like one out of I've
Ooh.
only won 1 out of the 10 games, and that's because he bricked on the Guru package.
Yeah.
So knowing that or understanding that, and I've only gotten to merciful mode maybe like 3 times.
I think merciful mode is a fake cope answer to the deck. Yeah.
It was a tech that I heard, but when merciful mode gets milled, then I can't do anything anymore.
True.
Yeah. So there's nothing I can't.
You have to hard mulligan for it on your opening.
Yeah. You either get it from your Agumons.
Yeah.
And that's it. That's the only way you can get it is through the Agumons. And that's so rough. And my friend was telling me he used the Eismon package for it. It actually is slower, and there's more time for you to like counteract it.
Yeah.
But with the Guru package, I feel like I can't do anything. And when I'm at my full strength using like Red War Greymon, Black War Greymon, or whatever, it's too late.
Yes.
It's already too late. And I'm like, sometimes I don't even have the perfect line with the full protection.
Yeah.
And that doesn't help you. So yeah, and then I think Miller was talking about like they tech cards like Metallic Dramon and Magnet Dramon, which slows your pacing so much more than it already is. So now you're just stuck waiting there.
Okay, so
I feel like more it's the Guru engine for sure more than a Pokemon.
You think so?
Yeah.
Okay, so you say same deck with Eismon is slow enough for you to be able to counter it. So it's a Garurumon package that speeds it up enough to be broken.
Yeah.
Hey, BB dudes.
Yeah, let's just put down the dog. It's fine.
Put down the dog. Ooh.
It's upsetting because I actually really like seeing so many purple decks like coming up because again, purple is a really technical color. I think it's a really cool color. I can't do it. I'll just be honest. I need blue, which is just purple with training wheels. And I don't know. I think it's a stylish thing, but like, if every purple deck is running this really good engine, and I was literally watching a suboptimal deck, which was Melga, the deck it was supposed to be for. It's not even the best at using it, and it was like, damn, that's insane. And it's like, yeah, that's not even a good deck with it.
I mean, it's a good deck. It's just not a top tier.
Like it's not the best deck. Is I think a better phrasing. It's like not even one of the best ones that you're using it. So I think it's probably the Garurumon more than the Apoclymon. From what I have seen, again, I think Omnis has more experience than I do with that. So,
fair enough. Howard, anything?
Yeah, I think that is a tough one. I think the thing that will affect the game more is definitely the Garurumon package, like for sure. So that's probably the bigger issue. However, I'm really very much in the same camp that if you're dealing with cards or with a deck that basically just ceases your interaction with the game, that's A, very annoying, but B, it's like really disheartening, and I think it makes people want to play the game less, even if they're really invested. So like for to give an example, I was probably most invested in the game during BT9. I don't mean necessarily emotionally, but I mean like I was physically playing the most during BT9.
I think that was peak. I agree. I think most people, that's when I won my local store championship, so I got to go to Nats, all of that. And that was one of the peaks of D-Reaper. And
that was that EX2 was D-Reaper.
That's true. No, you're correct.
Into BT9.
You are correct. I apologize. Yeah. And for me, I was playing Alphamon. That was my deck of choice. And it was a great deck then. I was playing against one of my good friends, and she was playing D-Reaper, I was playing Alphamon. I had literally, like unequivocally, the perfect Alphamon board. I had like 3 Oryukin modes. It was like nuts. Or sorry, not Oryuken modes, but 3 Oryuken mon to like slide under to get the extra attacks. Like I was popping off. But because she saw like 2 or 3 gatekeepers, I just literally couldn't play the game with like the best board that my deck could have made. And that like really bugged me. And I get along with this person and they're super nice and they're not smarmy about playing a deck like that. And it was just like, man, this sucks. And so if Apoclymon is going to be a similar experience, I very much like don't want that to be something that players encounter regularly. And I know that was a long diatribe, but basically what I'm getting at is I think Guru will be worse for the game, but I think in terms of like player interaction, like players interacting with cards, I think Apoclymon is going to be much more of a pain in the ass, and it's going to hurt individual players' experiences with the game more maybe than the Grumon package will. If that makes sense. I know that was long-winded, and I apologize for that, but
I mean,
I'm a little long-winded.
It was well spoken. I think you made good points.
Appreciate that.
Anyone have any counters?
No, I mean everyone made good points. I will say BT9 is my least favorite format because I thought it was underactive.
A lot of people hated BT9. A lot of
That's
people.
Yeah.
I felt like I didn't play the game, and that was 4 of like the good decks.
I was also a BT9 fan. Okay, Howard, I'm on your side. I'm a grandest.
No. Just to be clear, definitely problems with BT9. I'm not disputing that.
Oh, don't walk it back. Don't walk it back.
No. I'm not walking it back.
I'm kidding.
I enjoyed the format. It was a fun format, but if you weren't playing one of like the 4X antibody decks that just went burr, like that was kind of the only option. So I can understand how people would.
I mean, I was playing it and I didn't like the format.
Fair enough.
I was successful in that format. I didn't like the format.
Fair enough.
All right, so okay, let's just tie it all in. We're a little bit over an hour. I think this is a good point to kind of cut the video / live stream. If you're in the chat, if you got any questions, go ahead and post them in the next 45 seconds. Otherwise, I'm not going to see them because there's a delay. Purple decks. Did we come to a sort of conclusion? Is it the engine? Is it the boss monster? Is it a combination? Is it just doomed for purple decks? Are they always just going to be in this kind of nebulous spot of mid or broken? What do we come to? What do we think?
I mean, yeah, it's that nebulous. It's like it needs the exact right amount of boss monsters with engine to be good, and unless there's an archetype like Beelzemon, it's always going to be like that. Like all of the best purple decks except for Beelzemon are I have just enough good engine with just enough payoff for that engine.
Yeah, I think unless other other colors like than blue can deal with. Oh my god, sorry, that's like not a sentence. What am I trying to say?
No.
I think if the only color that can really deal with on deletion like so effectively is blue, I think we're gonna run into this problem like forever. But at the same time, the colors in this game mean something. They all have kind of an identity, and so the fact that part of blue's thing is, bring things back to your hand or on top of your deck or stuff like that
Or
makes
stun
it
things.
unique. Yeah, or stun things. Like it makes that's what blue does. So introducing that to everything, I don't think that is a fix for the issue. I think ultimately, as long as there are good engines, purple will still be a fun color and it will be a good color. But if the boss monsters are like mid, I don't know how strong it will be like in the top tiers.
Yeah. My closing thought is I think that purple design has a lot of problems, but because the way it's designed appeals to a very specific kind of player, and without that, it's like the game could be very boring for those players. But there has to be a good balance of like this deck is just fun enough for those people without being this oppressive for the other people. And it's like hard to hit that balance because the deck works on that double axis of engine plus boss monster as opposed to just a archetype that flows all together.
I think if we have engines like Beelzemon and engines like Anubismon that do stuff like that, I think it's totally fine. But I'm not a fan of like Guru line getting teched in or splashed in a lot of other decks that probably shouldn't have it, like a Pokemon. But I'm cool with that overall. So when they bring in new purple stuff like that, then it's really awesome, I think. So yeah, that's my thought into it, I guess.
All right, Joel, what are your thoughts? Close us out.
Ooh, okay. I'm gonna keep it honest with you guys. It could go either way. I don't. We had this whole discussion and we came. There's no answer. There's no answer. Unfortunately, there's no answer.
It's both. Is the answer actually?
I think purple is just they gave it that mechanic that's just too hard to balance in a game like this. Like I mentioned this at the beginning, but every other color except for yellow only plays with their board and their hand. Purple gets to play with every card in their trash, essentially. And that just makes it so any strategy that emphasizes that ability is too strong. It's too much tempo, too many options. It's a little ridiculous. So I think, unfortunately, purple players, you guys like to cry every time your color gets too good. You're like, oh, why is everyone saying that we need to get banned? It's because your color is just like that. Like it's either not good or it's too good.
It's either not good or it's a Yu-Gi-Oh deck.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And unfortunately, people quit Yu-Gi-Oh and then they want to come play Digimon, which doesn't do Yu-Gi-Oh things. And when they're like, "Oh man, he's doing Yu-Gi-Oh things," it's upsetting. It's upsetting. It's upsetting.
We just need to bring Gravekeepers into Digimon. Is what I'm understanding.
Jesus Christ.
You know, maybe they do that on some level.
Oh god.
We'll throw in a Dirty Diamonds right here. He says insane draw engines will always be broken in a majority of card games. True. It changes how you build a deck, and it's not possible for the opponent to stop your game plan. Also true. Especially in Digimon, like in Digimon there. Okay, going back to Yu-Gi-Oh, at least you had things like, I don't know, Royal Oppression. What was the card that's like cards that are sent to graveyard is sent to banished instead? What was that one?
Dimensional Vision, Macrocosmos.
Macrocosmos. You had Macrocosmos. Digimon
hand traps that do that now too.
Hand traps. In Digimon, there's no such thing. We're barely getting something now that lets you interact on an opponent's turn, which is Ace, Counterblast, Counter Digivolve.
Yeah.
Which only works on attacking, which is not how you're building your engine up.
Exactly.
And I feel like Ace cards could be a whole. I don't know if you've done a segment on them already, but that could be a whole other can of worms too. Ace cards.
Yeah, I think right now Ace cards are pretty well balanced. Honestly, if anything, I think they're a little underpowered.
That's kind of what I mean. Is they're not actually doing what Bandai maybe thought they would do. Yeah.
Yep. That's a whole different kind of worms. All right.
Yeah,
so purple. Kind of weird. No, we'll just say purple kind of weird. How about that? Yeah. We had a whole 1 hour plus video. Purple kind of weird. That's where we ended up. All right. So signing off. Thank you to Bryce. Thank you to Howard. First time on the channel. You did great, man. I appreciate you coming on.
Oh, thank you. I appreciate that.
Thank you to BB Dudes. Please check out BB Dude's channel. He's the best content creator Digimon on YouTube right now. Please watch his Old Force video recently. Thank you. And thank you to Omni Hero, who is the GOAT.